yesterday we had Cody Worsham on. We were talking about Myles Brennan in the Fightin Podcast that he had with Brennan. Wanted to follow up a little bit on that, and we'll hear a little bit from Brennan. And the number one question he's going to get, no media days, so he was spared being asked all of those times about following Joe Burrow.
When I get asked those questions, I try and tell myself, he's gone, and he's no longer here, and he's no longer going to be playing for LSU, and, it's time for, me to step into that role. And, I can talk about what he did, but talking about, last year's team and what we did last year is not going to, and talking about Joe is not going to help us in the future.
Yeah.
It's not going to do any good for us reflecting on what we did last year. But, yeah, it is time to – Joe's going to get all the credit that he deserves, in interviews and things like that. But at the same time, it's my time, and I fully understand that. And, I'm going to do, everything in my power to make, take full advantage of that.
Just get overblown, Jake, that he's being asked about this. He knows it's coming.
Yeah.
And pretty much after you get through August and maybe the first couple of games, assuming they play, it's asked and answered at that point, right?
I think he's in a much better situation to be able to handle those questions because of how old he is and how long he's been here. Think about if he was a second-year player here. He redshirted last year, and then he was this big-time recruit. He's a redshirt freshman, and now you got to take over for Joe Burrow. I think LSU's got one of the best comps that you can throw with this as far as a quarterback that gets picked number 1 overall, Jamarcus Russell, and a guy that waited his turn, that was a talented guy, right, that to push to be the starter at times like Matt Flynn did. Then Matt Flynn comes over and he takes over, wins a national championship. And so I understand the comp's not exactly the same because Joe won the Heisman, all those things, but Jamarcus, number 1 pick, pretty damn good quarterback. But, he's got to have that mentality. This is my team now, which, everything sounds good, but he's got to have that mentality. I do think he's set up better to handle that because he's in the situation just like Flynn was. He's an older player. He's been here. Ensminger's been here his entire time, right? So they've got a great relationship. And so if you want to look for a comp, that's obviously going to be one that you hear a ton about.
Being the quarterback at a high-profile program is difficult, and it's difficult for a lot of reasons. Now, some of those reasons may be alleviated a little bit by this COVID. It may not be that – because when Myles Brennan steps under center, whatever he does is almost certainly going to fall short of what we watched last year. And so when he misses a receiver or throws a pick six or, fumbles or, doesn't hit a third down throw, whatever, you may see a negative reaction in Tiger Stadium that's used to perfection all of a sudden. And that can be tough. And then you've got dealing with being a part of the student body. And I want to tell a story because it's one that, I think not a lot of people know. But I was on campus, obviously, when Jarrett Lee had his redshirt freshman season where he threw too many interceptions. And LSU lost to Georgia, and he threw an interception, a pick six on the first play of that game, and it had been, he'd thrown 8 of them at that point. And I get into class, and Jarrett Lee wasn't in my class, but I opened the Reveille, and on the front page of the Reveille, the headline is an UGA, N-U-G-A, for Georgia, an UGA-Lee loss. An UGA-Lee loss, which is essentially saying the quarterback stunk and we lost to Georgia. Did you see that? And it rubbed me so violently the wrong way. I emailed the editor of the Reveille. I said, this is disgusting. I don't care. And she sent some garbage about how that she's not an LSU fan. She's fair and balanced. And I just blew another gasket and was like, you write for the LSU student paper. You go here. I get you have to, present things in an objective manner, but that's just bashing a kid because you didn't think he played well enough. And so my fear is, what if Myles Brennan doesn't meet the expectations that we now have? How does he handle it? I don't worry about him in the media. He's going to be fine. I think, Jacob, you're around. I think the guys like him. I think he's doing a good job of leading the team. It's about how you deal with adversity, and it comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes.
If Jarrett Lee, in a perfect world, would have had the career path that Myles Brennan had,
right,
the ability to sit behind an experienced player, learn the system, mature physically, mentally, the whole thing, it may have turned out so much different for him here.
Oh, I think you're exactly right. He was out there in San Diego with us. He was an undrafted player, but he came and he lasted through camp, and there was real conversations of Jarrett Lee either making the team or trying to hide him on the practice squad. Now, we had a couple of veteran quarterbacks, and it was hard for San Diego, but North Turner loved him. He thought he had some talent. So I think you're exactly right. If he would have had the situation where he gets to sit and learn and watch, because, I mean, we all remember, I mean, Myles Brennan pushed Danny Etling for a long time. I mean, there was moments when Myles would come in and replace Danny. Myles was in the
Syracuse game, right? It's the one I remember.
Troy game. He was in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, at Alabama. We were down 2 scores, like 2.5 minutes to go. All right, throw the kid in there. Right? It's like, what is this?
So, I mean, he's had moments where he's competed to be the guy. Now, those were a long time ago, but I think that sets you up much better. That's not saying he's going to be successful as Joe Burrow, right? I'm not trying to compare the two, but I think those experiences, they help you because you're not just new to this. I mean, he has been in a battle. He's been in these meeting rooms. He knows the coaching staff. He knows the players. And so all that is already out of the way, right? Trying to gain the team and win the team over. And so I think that sets you up much better than if you're a young football player. And so, yeah, he's going to get asked about it, but I think he can handle it because of where he's at.
Another thing that quarterbacks are tasked with is the leading of summer workouts. That's been particularly challenging given the restrictions and the protocols, and Brennan talked about that.
Really not much has changed because, I prepared every single week, as if I was going to be the starter. And just in case anything were to happen, I was going to have to go in that, the rest of the game, the rest of the season and play like I was the starter. So I really prepared, as the best I could every single week. Now it's really just, getting the timing down with the receivers and, just having that terminology to where we can communicate different things and getting, dips right and just actually being the guy that's doing the action and not just standing behind and listening, So I feel like that's just been the most important thing as we are working in the off season.
Jacob, those workouts from last summer, the stories kind of grew in legend as the season went along. It's like they were talking about, hey, this is what we drilled in the summer, and nobody ever missed a workout, and every group had a leader. How do they simulate that this summer? I mean, how are they able to work around the workarounds to get all that done?
It's a little bit more difficult. There's no question about that. You can't just go to the indoor facility and get a bag of balls from the equipment room and go out there and throw. So it's been more challenging, but all that I've heard is Myles has tried to do it. He's continued to try to push the point of, hey, we got to get together, we got to throw, we got to do everything possibly that we can. Even when they weren't allowed on campus, he was doing it elsewhere, and that's on the quarterback. It's without a doubt on the quarterback. And I remember Jamarcus even got in trouble one time because Jamarcus called up Southern, and we had a 7-on-7 against Southern. And Jimbo got so mad that Jamarcus did that, but Jamarcus like, look, I was trying to get better. I wanted to work. We weren't going to go against our own guys. We had gone against them so many times in the past. We wanted to go against another team. Southern's right down the road.
Is that against the rules?
I don't know, but we did it.
Why was Jimbo mad?
Because Jimbo's always mad.
Okay.
But he got mad at Jamarcus for doing it. I get, probably getting hurt and all those different things. But, it's on the quarterback to do those things because if the quarterback does it, everybody else is going to fall in line. We know the receiving room's got really good leaders, not only with Marshall and Chase, but Racy McMath was a special teams captain type of guy, right? So he's got that leadership quality as well. I'd be very interested to see how the running back group, who emerges as that leader right now. Who's the voice that says, hey, guys, we're going to be there. All three of us, we're all going to be there. Tight ends kind of run with the receivers, but it all starts with the quarterback. If your quarterback's doing those things, the last thing you want to do as a position player is your quarterback take the time, call a team 7-on-7, a throwing session, and you're the one guy not there because you're going to get called out.
The one constant that Myles Brennan has had since he's been here has been Steve Ensminger. Remember that when he got here, Matt Canada was the guy calling the plays. So he's been here quite some time. That seems like a long, long time ago. But Ensminger, though he has changed positions since Brennan got here, has been the one constant. And Brennan talked about his relationship with his OC.
No, I mean, he's been really important. I mean, since I've been here, he's kind of been like my foundation. He's been like my starting point. I mean, when I came in, he was coaching tight ends, and then that next year, he took over the quarterback room, and then from there on, he's been in there. And just to have a guy like him and a coach with all of his knowledge, and then he's the thing I like about him the most is, I mean, he's played the position and he's played it here. So he knows what he's talking about. He's not just a quarterback coach. I mean, he's actually played the position. But yeah, he's definitely been like, I mean, I like to say just like the rock in my foundation since I've been here.
Now, Steve has told us that we can't have him on for another 6 months, so we're going to have to take Brennan's word for this all the way through the season. But what do you think that relationship is like right now? Because Brennan has been in that room for an awfully long time.
I can tell you, on air, off the air, behind closed doors, any situation I've ever seen that relationship, it's great. and there's a good communication there, and it's really even grown this offseason. And the one thing, well, there's many things, and Steve Ensminger is a national treasure, but one of the things I really enjoy about him, he's going to say what he feels. And I'll always go back to the coach's caravan, because I asked him about the offensive line. I said, how big of a concern is that for you? He said, oh, it's a big concern. And then he went into detail about why it's a concern, and some of that is played out. Now you get some depth with Liam Shanahan, all those things. But my point is, he said it's a concern. When I asked him about Myles Brennan in the same interview, he said, get on the bandwagon now. Go ahead and get on it. And so he's going to tell you what he thinks. And so that gives you encouragement. That relationship has continued to grow. And I said it earlier, I think it is important that they've been together their entire time. They know each other, and they've been able to grow together. And look, Coach Ensminger knows his weaknesses. He knows what he's got to work on more than anybody else. And so all those things, man, that's a big factor. And like I said, I take a lot what Steve Ensminger says, because if it comes to his mind, it's coming out of his mouth. And, he said get on the bandwagon.
If you ever get bored and you're looking for something to do, looking to kill some time, try to find somebody that has a negative thing to say about Steve Ensminger. The man, the football mind, coach, recruiter, it's all positive.
Limited media availability.
And there you go.
But when he's on, he's gold.
But
when he's on, he is good. And you heard Myles talk about it. Like, he's played the position here. He's played it at LSU, right? He fought for his time there. He was a guy who rotated a little bit, whatever. All those things, man, all those little small factors, all that kind of stuff adds up that he can relate to Myles.